We've never encountered such enemies. Strong, tenacious, fanatical fighters. A Japanese admiral's diary after the Battle of Midway. We'll take a closer look at what happened, who's to blame, and what it all led to. Support the channel by subscribing, leave your thoughts in the comments, and share this video. The topic is far too serious to stay silent. I still remembered that morning. It began deceptively calm. The sea breathed evenly, the sun rose slowly, as if unwilling to witness our catastrophe. We sailed toward Midway with confidence, almost with ceremony. I watched the flagship cut through the waves while steam drifted above the decks warmed by engines. The Imperial fleet looked invincible. None of us believed that fate was already standing nearby, silently waiting for its hour. I remembered how I had written the plan for the operation. Every line on the map had seemed flawless. I calculated every move of the enemy like a chess player foreseeing the end of the game. We were certain that America was weak, that it had not recovered from Pearl Harbor. I told myself they had no will to fight, that they feared pain. But now, looking back, I understand that we saw the world through the smoke of our own arrogance. Our carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, moved in formation like proud giants of the empire. On their decks stood the pilots, young, brave, devoted to madness itself. Their eyes burned with faith. They repeated the emperor's words and dreamed of dying for him. They did not know that this day would be the last for most of them. I remembered Nagumo's face, calm, determined, carrying that stern confidence found only in men who have forgotten what doubt feels like. He gave the order to prepare the planes for attack. Wind tore the flags. The air trembled from the roar of the engines. Everything went according to plan. We awaited another swift and perfect victory, sharp as the cut of a katana. But at that very moment, beyond the horizon, another force was moving toward us. The Americans already knew where we were headed. They had read our signals, studied our habits. We thought ourselves the hunters, yet we were already tangled in their net. When the first reports of enemy aircraft reached the bridge, I did not believe them. We were sure the American carriers were far away, unable to reach us. But they were already there, waiting. And when the dauntless dive bombers fell from the clouds, the sky above the ocean burst into flames like the mouth of hell itself. The first explosion sounded like thunder. I saw fire rip through the hull of Akagi, then Kaga burned, then Soryu. Within minutes, the pride of the empire had turned into blackened skeletons. The decks were aflame, men ran, burning, falling into the water. The air grew thick with smoke and screams. The ocean reflected the fire as if it looked back at us with contempt. Nagumo stood motionless. I looked at him. He seemed carved from stone. In his eyes, I saw confusion, then terror, then emptiness. All his calculations had turned to ashes. Communication broke down. The radios transmitted fragments of sentences, pleas for help, cries of death. Everything was collapsing faster than the mind could follow. I tried to remain calm, but with every passing minute, the truth became clearer. This was the end. One after another, our ships became torches. We lost everything we believed untouchable. 4 carriers, the heart of the fleet, the pillar of the empire, disappeared into fire. That evening, I sat alone in my cabin. Before me lay a chart stained with soot. I looked at it and could no longer recognize my world. In that silence I wrote, for the first time, the words that historians would later quote, "We have awakened a sleeping giant." I knew that America had awakened, and that it would never stop again. I recalled studying in their country many years earlier. I had seen their cities, their machines, their fearless smiles. Even then I had said to myself, if these people ever become our enemies, they will be the most dangerous of all. And now my own words had returned like a curse. The Americans did not celebrate loudly. I later heard from captured sailors that they simply stood on their decks in silence. They knew that victory had come at a heavy price, yet they also knew something greater. They could win. They had found faith in themselves, and that was more frightening than any bomb. We had lost more than ships. We had lost our soul. The fleet once called invincible was helpless before the enemy's cold precision. We believed in honor and fanatic devotion. They believed in reason and endurance. We went to die for our emperor. They went to live for their freedom. I saw officers shoot themselves on the decks. Pilots threw their bodies into the flames, unable to bear the shame. The sea swallowed them without a trace. Gulls settled on the waves as if nothing had happened. And I stood and watched my empire vanish. That night I did not sleep. I wrote everything I had seen. My diary smelled of smoke. I wrote, "We did not lose a battle. We lost an era. We thought we commanded destiny, but destiny had already taken command of us." When morning came and the sun rose again above the ocean, there was only silence. The water covered the wrecks, carried away the cries, erased everything. I walked onto the deck and looked at the horizon. The world seemed changed. Imperial pride had sunk with the ships. All that remained was shame and awareness. Since that day, I often returned to Midway in my thoughts. I saw the faces of the dead, heard the roar of engines, smelled oil and blood. All of it lived inside me. I understood that our strength had been an illusion. We worshipped death, they worshipped life, and that was why they won. Midway was not merely a defeat. It was a mirror in which the Empire saw its true reflection for the first time. We could no longer lie to ourselves. We were not gods, we were mortal, and we paid for our pride with the finest men we had. I knew that battle had changed everything. After it, we never regained the initiative. America took the ocean into its hands. Their ships multiplied, their industry expanded. We still prayed to our old myths, we still fought, but we already knew. The outcome had been decided on that day when Midway burned. Years later, I reread my own notes. There were words written by a weary man. Strength is not the sword, but the mind. Not fanaticism, but patience. I had not understood them then. I do now. We believed in the instant strike. They believed in the long road, and that road led them to victory. Sometimes I feel that the ocean still keeps those voices. When I hear the surf, I can distinguish their echoes, the voices of my sailors, my friends. They are gone, and I remain to remember. That is my punishment. I bear no hatred toward those who defeated us. They did what they had to do, they fought for what they believed in, and as a warrior, I can respect that. Victory belongs not to those who shout loudest, but to those who stay calm when the world collapses. People sometimes ask what I felt when I learned that all 4 carriers were lost. I felt silence. It is a strange feeling, not fear, not pain, but emptiness, as if everything inside suddenly stopped sounding. I realized that together with those ships, everything I had lived for had drowned. I remember ordering the flag raised halfway that evening, not as a sign of surrender, but as a farewell to those who burned in the fire. I said, "They died with honor, but our honor means nothing now." Those words drifted across the remaining ships like a whisper in the wind. From that day on, I never again looked up at the flag. The Americans showed that war was not about rage, but about timing, the ability to wait and strike when the moment was right. They did not rush or panic. They acted with calm precision. We rushed headlong into battle, unaware that the enemy could already see through us. After Midway, we no longer believed in miracles. We knew that every new operation was only a way to delay the inevitable. The Empire was moving toward its sunset, yet no one dared to say it aloud. We kept pretending that everything was under control. Only within each of us lived the shadow of Midway. Years later, I learned that the Americans called that battle the turning point. They said that it was there they understood they could win. And I agree. It was not just a battle. It was the birth of their certainty. Without meaning to, we became the forgers of their strength. I am no longer afraid to remember that day. It is no longer pain, but remembrance, a reminder that every pride has its limit. War is not an arena of glory, but a mirror in which you see yourself. And if you refuse to see the truth, war will show it to you by force. When I think of those who died, I no longer feel only sorrow. I feel gratitude. They revealed to me a truth I had not wanted to admit. That true strength is not submission or fanaticism, but the ability to understand when to stop. Yamamoto, the admiral of the Imperial fleet, died within me the day Kaga caught fire. From that moment, I was only a man who had watched legends collapse. And perhaps that is what real honor means, not victory, but the ability to face defeat with dignity. Now, as years have passed, I see that ocean again. It is calm as it was then, but I hear a different breath within its silence. There is no arrogance, no fear, only memory. Memory of the day the world changed. If I could turn back time, I would act the same way. Not because I still believed in victory, but because I knew no other way. We were prisoners of our era, of our oaths, of our emperor. Yet perhaps through defeat, we finally understood what it means to be human. Midway has remained within me forever, as a wound, as a lesson, as a scar that no longer hurts but never lets me forget. I do not know whether history has forgiven us, but I know this. That day the ocean took not only our ships, but the pride of the entire empire. When the sun set over the water, I saw its light lie across the waves like a shroud upon the dead. And I understood. It was over. The empire had died not from explosions, but from its own belief in perfection. Now, after all these years, I speak these words without bitterness, but with peace, for a defeat fully understood becomes wisdom, and the ocean keeps everything, our mistakes, our pride, our pain, and if one listens carefully, in its whisper one can still hear, "We have awakened a sleeping giant, and he will never sleep again."